I'm Ray with another eerie tale. Bit of a sad one this time. Oh, by the way, Happy Christmas. Happy Christmas to you all. Hope you have a good time. This story begins just before Christmas, many, many years ago. Just before Christmas. I knew a girl, a very good friend of mine, Catherine, and we went out together for a little while. It didn't really work out, and we ended up just as friends. She went on to get married to a chap called Jack, which was fine. You know, I met Jack. I even went to their wedding. It was lovely. They've been married a couple of years, no children, but I think they did plan to have some. Jack was all right. He was, if I said to you, choose, I don't know, half a dozen, 6, 7, 8 people, which one, if you had to, which one would you choose to go, say, to the pub with for a drink for 2 or 3 hours one evening? You'll probably say, oh, it'd be him or her. And if I said, which one would you rather not be alone with in the pub for 2 or 3 hours one evening having a chat? And I bet anything you'll say, yes, I know which one I would rather not go with, even though you're friends. No. Some people are difficult, aren't they? Difficult to converse with, difficult to enjoy an evening with, really. You might say, so any plans for this weekend? No. Okay, weather's not been up to much, has it? No. Got a holiday planned this year? No. You know what I mean? It's so difficult. It can be hard work. And Jack was hard work. But that's fine. It was Catherine's husband. Who am I to knock him? That's fine. They seemed happy. Until she came round one evening just before Christmas. I was surprised. She hadn't been to my place since before she was married, when we were together. And when I opened the door, wow, Catherine, come in. I was really surprised. And I led her into the lounge and I said, you all right? Yeah, fine. I just needed to talk to you. That's worrying, isn't it? I needed to talk to you. Oh dear. I hope everything's all right with Jack. And she sat down and she said, look, things keep disappearing. Okay, things keep disappearing. Okay. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, I might have a pen. I put the pen down and I'm writing something, put the pen down for a minute, go to pick it up again and it's gone. I said, oh, that happens to all of us. You know, I'll be working on something. I've got a screwdriver. Put the screwdriver down, but I go to pick it up and it's gone. I said, that happens to all of us. I wouldn't worry about that. She said, no. It's not just that. This has been happening for a year now. More and more it's been happening. And she said, I'll show you. I'll give you an example. And she took a pen out of her bag. Okay. She said, look, put it on the coffee table. She said, there, I'll put that there. That will disappear. And I said, okay. I didn't want to laugh or anything. I said, okay, fine. And we carried on chatting. And I just happened to glance over. And when I looked back, the pen had disappeared. And I thought, what's she done with that? What's she done? She'd put it in her handbag, because her handbag was just there with the top open. And I thought she's put that in a bag. And she was saying, look, it's disappeared. And I said, okay, I didn't want to, as I said, I didn't want to laugh at her or anything. She'd come to see me and she looked serious. So I said, well, that's strange. I don't know what to say about that. She went into the loo. She needed the toilet. She went into the loo and I just looked in the top of her handbag. And lo and behold, there was the pen in the top of her handbag. So when she got back, I said, this is strange. Are you sure? Sure it's not back in your bag? And she looked, she said, no. Then of course she said, oh look, it's back in my handbag. I thought she's put it in there. Obviously, I don't know what she was up to. I couldn't imagine what she was up to, but she put it back in her handbag and then, oh look, it's appeared. So I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to say. I didn't want to upset her. I had an idea. I said, would you like a glass of wine? She said, oh, that would be nice. Yeah, that'd be lovely. So I said, look, what else have you got in your handbag? Put something else on the coffee table. And she pulled out a lighter, with the cheap gas lighters. Everyone smoked in those days, of course, which was naughty. And she put the lighter on the coffee table. And I got up to go to the kitchen and she stayed. I said, well, come with me. I'll show you what wine I've got. And she came with me. I made sure she went into the kitchen first. I looked back. The lighter was on the table. Right. I grabbed myself a beer, poured her a glass of wine, and we chatted for a minute or two, then went back into the lounge. The lighter had gone. Obviously, at that stage, I had to take her seriously. I mean, I tried to come across as serious before, but now I'd seen the lighter, well, not see it disappear, but now it had disappeared. I knew something was going on. So I said, okay, what's been happening? Tell me the whole thing. She said, well, for the last year, it happened last Christmas, the first thing. She said, I drew the curtains in the lounge, Christmas Eve, and I went to the kitchen to get a drink, came back and the curtains were open. And I said, yeah, we can all make mistakes. She said, well, you saw my lighter. Was that a mistake? And no, fair enough. And she said, since last Christmas, over the whole year, more and more things have been happening. So she said, I know you've had experiences with ghosts I hate that term, ghosts in the past. She said, is it a ghost? So I said, okay, well, do you know anyone that's passed away, that might be, I don't know, trying to tell you something? She said, I don't know anyone that's died. So I said, well, no old aunties or anything? And she said, well, no, none of my aunties are that old. She said, my friends, of course, are all sort of my age, about 22. And she said, I don't know anyone that's died. So I said, okay, I'll just try to work out if it was someone like a spiritual type thing, a spirit, and they were trying to tell her something. Who was it? She was adamant that she didn't know anyone, so fair enough, I left it there. I said, okay, so what's happened in this year, apart from curtains? And she said, well, doors, I've locked the back door, closed it and locked it in the evening, and I've gone back to the kitchen and the door's open. She said, a lot of things like that have been happening. And she said, back in the summer, I found in the kitchen a little jewellery box, just a tiny box. And she said, I opened it, and inside, lovely pair of earrings, beautiful earrings. She said they were probably very expensive. And she said, when Jack got in from work, I said, what are these earrings? And he went mad. He accused her, apparently, of going through his pockets, and she said, I'd never go through his pockets. He said, why would I? He accused her of all sorts of things, of searching through his things and interfering. And she said they had quite an argument about it. And in the end, he said, that was going to be your birthday present, because her birthday was a couple of weeks away. And she said to me, she said, earrings, do you remember about earrings? And I said, yeah, you don't like them, you don't wear them, do you? I remember that. She said, no, I've never worn earrings, they irritate me, they're awful, hanging around, interfering with my ears. She said, I just hate it. And Jack knows that, so why would he buy me earrings? She went on to say that last Christmas, he went out Christmas morning, 10 o'clock, and didn't get back till 1. And I said, well, didn't you have like mums and dads and family round? She said, yes, we did. And it was embarrassing. They're turning up at 11, half 11, 12 o'clock. Oh, where's Jack? He's gone out. She said, it was embarrassing. I said, well, where did he go? What did he say? Oh, I had to help a friend, he's moving. And I said, what, Christmas Day, Christmas morning? She said, well, it was rather odd. She said, but I don't know, that's what he said. I was busy with people. I said, well, what was he like when he got back for the rest of Christmas Day? She said, well, I don't know, he was just normal. He drank too much. She said, that's not like him, but he did drink too much. In my mind, everything was pointing to Jack being unfaithful. I mean, what other conclusion at that stage could I come to? Earrings that she didn't wear, this business from last Christmas. It's all rather odd. It's been happening for a year. It all seemed rather strange. I didn't want to say to her, do you think Jack's being unfaithful? I didn't want to say that to Catherine, because that would upset her. So she carried on telling me things that had happened. She said that Jack, every Friday after work, he goes out with his friends. After work, they go to the pub about 6 o'clock. They're there till about 7 and come home to dinner. She said that then became 8 o'clock, then 9 o'clock. And he would just say, oh, well, yeah, we got drinking, we got talking. She said then he started going out at 7 and coming back at 10. Then he started going out at 7 and coming back at 11 when the pub closed. So he was there for the whole evening. And she said that she didn't complain because she went out with friends as well. She had her friends, and that's just the way it was. He'd go out now and then, or every Friday, and possibly once or more in the week. And she would perhaps not every week, but she'd go out with her friends. And I said, well, when you went out with your friends, does he stay at home? She said, well, I think so, but I've got an idea he goes out. So I said, so he goes out every Friday, possibly another day in the week. She said, or 2. And I said, and then if you go out, he goes out. So I said, that's quite a lot, isn't it? Don't you go out together? And she said, not anymore. She said, over the last year, as I keep saying, things have been changing. She said, our love life has kind of disappeared, basically, as she put it. She said he's become cold towards me. She said, I don't know what it is. I don't know what's happened. I don't know what I've done wrong. And I said to her, I don't think you've done anything wrong. I didn't want to talk about this idea of mine that he was seeing someone else. So I said, where does he go on a Friday? Which pub? And she said, what, you're going to follow him? I said, I don't know. I just might go to the pub and I don't know. I'm not saying anything. Anyway, she said, well, he leaves about 7 and he goes, she told me the pub, he goes there. She said, sometimes they change pubs. He's not always at the same one. I said, all right, leave it with me. Being winter time, almost Christmas, it was dark. So I could hang around just down the road from where they lived. I saw Jack come out about 7 o'clock. And I followed him, kept a safe distance. I followed him. A couple of streets away, he stopped outside a house, went up to the front door and rang the bell. Now I was in the shadows by a tree in the road. A girl answered the front door, about our age, sort of 20s, and she had a baby in her arms. And she looked pleased to see him, and he stepped inside and shut the front door. And of course I'm standing out there thinking, what is going on here? A baby? I tried to tell myself, no, it could be a friend of hers is round. He's gone to visit someone, a friend of hers is round with the baby and she's holding the baby. Or she's babysitting for someone, that's what it was. I tried to think of anything and everything apart from this was Jack's other woman and that's his baby. I started to walk to Catherine's house and then I thought, no, I don't know what to say. I went home. I had a couple of beers, I picked up the phone 2 or 3 times, half a dozen times. I won't phone her. I put my coat on, I'll go around. No, I took my coat off. I didn't know what to do. The following day was Christmas Eve and it was about 7 in the evening when she rang me. And she said, can you come round? I need you to come round. There's someone in the house. I said, well, where's Jack? Oh, he's out. He's always out. I think there's someone in the house. Can you come round? Now, she only lived a couple of streets away, but I went in my car because it was quicker. I drove round there. I was only 2 or 3 minutes. I parked outside. She's standing at the front door. I dashed in. I said, well, where is he? What's happened? She said, well, I'm hearing noises upstairs. So I closed the front door. I went upstairs. Nothing. Looked in all the rooms. Nothing. So I came back down and I said, perhaps he's gone out. Where is the back door opening? I didn't know what to do. And then we heard a thud in the kitchen. So I rushed out to the kitchen. There's no one there. This is whoever is trying to get a message to her. Someone is trying to tell her something. This is the person. So I went back into the hall where she was, and it was dimly lit, and I could just about see in the corner by the front door a figure of a young man. Now, she saw me staring and she said, what are you looking at? She obviously couldn't see him. I said, no, nothing, I'm just thinking. I said, you sure you don't know anyone that's passed away? A young man, perhaps? And I looked at him. I said, perhaps 15, 16, 17 years old, something like that. And she said, David. David? Who's David? Jack's brother, she said. Jack's brother died years ago. His younger brother, he was a couple of years younger. And it's about 6 years ago, before I met Jack. So I said, well, what happened? She said, oh, it was an illness. Jack doesn't like to talk about it a great deal, but David had an illness. So I never met him. This was before we got together. And the boy died. And I said, well, it's awful. And I'm then thinking, is this David? And I'm looking at him and he was nodding like that. Nodding. Then she went on to say, they never got on together. Apparently David was always, as he put it, grassing him up. Whatever Jack did, David would tell their parents and grass him up. She said, there's one that he told me that he always stuck in my mind. He said to David after school, we're going to town on the bus. And David was saying, oh, no, we've got to go straight home. Mum said we've got to go straight home. Oh, that's all right. When they got home, their mother said, oh, yeah, you're late. And Jack said, oh, well, we missed the bus. And David said, oh, we didn't. We went into town. And he was always dropping him in it, as Catherine put it. Always grassing on Jack. Is this what he was doing now? That's my thought as I looked at David. And he just looked at me and he was nodding. Catherine said, you can see him, can't you? And I said, yes. I didn't want to lie to her. I said, yes. And she looked horrified. And she stepped back. I said, it's all right. I said, it's okay. I said, you've already said I've got experience with ghosts, as you put it. I said, David is fine. He's here and he's fine. He's friendly. Don't worry. And she sort of gave me a look of relief. And she said, what does he want? David moved between us, just drifted between us down the hall towards the kitchen. And he beckoned me. I said, he wants us to follow him. She said, well, I can't see him. I said, well, it's right, you follow me. I followed David out of the back door into the garden. As we went out there, Catherine switched the light on and she followed me. David went into the shed. I went into the shed. It was pitch dark in there. Catherine put the light on in there, which was not very good. It was just a very dim bulb. David was pointing to the corner of the shed, pointing like that, looking at me. There were some old blankets or whatever it was, an old coat. I moved everything aside and there was a box about that big, covered in Christmas paper, Christmas wrapping paper. It was a present. And I picked it up. What's this? There was a card on the top. I looked at the card. To my beautiful baby girl, I hope you have a happy first Christmas. Love, Daddy. I just thought, that's it. This is the girl with the baby. Catherine snatched the present from me. She read the card and then just stared at me in, I don't know, horror. Loads. She must have had emotions mixed up and swirling around. This was Christmas Eve. Her husband's out. She's found in the shed, well, we found in the shed, David showed us in the shed, a Christmas present to his daughter. It was going to be her first Christmas. And no doubt tomorrow morning, which was Christmas Day, he was going to go around there. Catherine was staring at the label on the Christmas present. David held his hand out to give me something. I held my hand up and he dropped some keys into my hand. Some keys. I didn't know what it was about, whose they were. So I took the keys and he just smiled at me. Just smiled and went like that and disappeared. Catherine was not aware of the keys at all. She's looking at the present. I said, come on, come indoors. I led her into the house. I locked and bolted the kitchen door. And she put the present on the kitchen table. And she was in a state of shock. And I must admit, I was not shocked exactly, but I was just stunned. What is going on here? And then she said to me, what happened when you followed him? I said, she said, you did follow him, didn't you? I said, yes. She said, where did he go? I said, he went to a house and a girl answered the door. A woman answered the door and he went in. And she said, and? I said, and the girl had a baby in her arms. And with that, she just looked at me and said, I won't be long, don't go. And she went upstairs, left the present on the kitchen table. I just opened the fridge and took a beer. They were Jack's beers, I didn't care, I just took a beer. And I just stood in the kitchen thinking, well, what is going on? What are we going to do? This was David had come back. I didn't know what Catherine was going to do. She was in a state of shock. She's banging around upstairs. I didn't like to go up there. I didn't think she'd do anything silly. She wasn't that sort of person. Not that I'd known her well for some time, but I knew her well from before, and she wasn't that sort of person. All the time she was banging around up there, I thought it was okay. She eventually came down the stairs lugging two big suitcases. I knew what she'd done. She'd obviously packed Jack's things in the suitcases. She dumped them by the front door. I was in the hall at this stage. She walked past me, ignored me, walked past me into the kitchen, got the present, opened the front door, dumped the suitcases on the doorstep and put the present on top and shut the front door. And I said to her, "You'll be wanting these," and I gave her the keys. She said, "Where do you get those?" I said, "David gave me the keys." She said, "They're Jack's keys." I said, "Yeah, I sort of guessed as much." She said, "He never goes out without them." I said, "Well, David has obviously gone to Jack and taken them. How, I don't know, but he's taken them from Jack and given them to me." Jack was obviously locked out of the house. Kathy and I sat in the lounge. She knocked back at least one bottle of wine. I had several more of Jack's beers. I wasn't able to drive home that evening, but it wasn't too far to walk. And we just sat there. She was talking and I was just listening, I suppose. I was listening. She was obviously, as I say, her mind was torn between anger and upset and betrayal. The whole lot going through her mind. And she kept babbling about this and that, and I wish I'd never met him. I wish we'd got married, and just babbling on about, she wasn't in a good place at all. Eventually, I don't know how long it was, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, eventually the doorbell went. It was obviously Jack, and he was shouting through the letterbox, "Catherine, I've lost my keys, let me in. What's these cases? Catherine, what's this present?" She went into the hall. I just stood in the lounge doorway so I could hear, and she said, "You're not coming in. I know what you've been up to for the past year. I know what you've been doing. You're not coming in. Go away, get out," and all this business. He said, No, please, let me in. I've lost my keys." And she said, "You're not coming in, Jack. It's finished. It's over." And she said, "What have I done? What have I done?" And she said, "Well, look at the present on the suitcases." And he said, "Oh, no, I can explain." And she said, "Jack, David's already explained everything to me." "What do you mean? What do you mean?" "David has grasped on you. David has told me everything, Jack." Kathy, as she doesn't like to be called, Catherine, walked back into the lounge. All went quiet on the doorstep. She looked out of the lounge window, and Jack had disappeared. The cases had gone, the present had gone. He disappeared. He'd taken everything and gone. And she flopped onto the sofa. I sat next to her on the sofa, and she grabbed the second bottle of wine that she'd just opened, hadn't had any from it, filled up her glass to the top, quite a large glass, started drinking that. I grabbed another beer from the fridge. I thought, we're in for the evening, for the night. There was no walking home now. I grabbed another beer from the fridge, sat next to her on the sofa, and we just sat there. We didn't speak. We just sat there together. I don't know how long for. Time is a strange thing. Time just, disappears. At that sort of situation, time disappears. Eventually, she said, "I'm not upset. I'm not upset at all." She said, I've given this a lot of thought. I've been thinking about it. And she said, over the whole of the past year, I've not been happy. I now know why I've not been happy. I'm glad that we didn't have children. I'm glad that the house is only rented, so we haven't got all that battle to go through. I'm free. She said, all I want now is a divorce and I'm free. And she held up her wine glass and I held up my can of beer and we chink, happy Christmas. And she said, there's just one thing I would like to have done. I'd like to have thanked David for grasping on his big brother yet again. And with that, David appeared. I could see him, I looked. And Catherine followed my gaze. And I said, well, look, he's here now if you want to. And she said, I can see him. And her face was a picture. It was, I don't know, I can't describe. Just, she said, I can see him. And I said, well, thank him. And she said, David, she held her glass up, David, thank you. Happy Christmas. And he smiled and disappeared. Happy Christmas.